SSD, 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 SSD.
The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
Hey Jokers, MultimediaJay here, and today we're going to be installing an SSD in Monolith. Okay, for the folks wondering what the heck the Druaga references are about, people relate me to Druaga and Greenham quite a bit, so I'm throwing those folks a bone here. But yes, we have a Crucial MX300 275GB SSD to install in Monolith to replace the one and only Crucial BX SSD that's in there, get everything all MX, and move forward with Crucial MX from here on out. I initially switched from Intel SSDs to Crucial SSDs after nearly losing everything on an Intel SSD, and then finding out that Crucial, although they're not the fastest SSDs on the market, Crucial actually implements some of the corporate type stuff for data redundancy and protection in case of power failure on some of their SSDs instead of going for raw speed. So SSDs are already pretty fast as they are, and on the serial ATA bus they've already pretty much maxed the bandwidth. So speed isn't everything, although the circuit board SSDs that are out there nowadays are awesome for picking up where these things left off. I'm a little old-fashioned though. I've had Monolith for nearly a year, and I still don't have one of those circuit board SSDs powering everything yet, but yeah, well, at least it's not a mechanical drive. Let's pull this thing out and install the SSD. And just like that, Monolith is now liberated from Crucial BX SSDs and has all Crucial MX SSDs. And just like that, it's Saturday afternoon. Yeah, that was a little bit tricky. With UEFI and the increased security on today's motherboards, cloning the SSD was a little more complicated than the last time, but we did manage to liberate this Crucial BX, which I now have in a USB 3 box, because now we can use the now updated Disk Wizard and other cloning software to clone over so that this BX can now become Tuxedo's main SSD, and we can get whatever's in there, I think it's 120 gig A data or something, out of there. There's going to be quite a bit of part swapping, and the whole issue over primary and secondary systems is going to lead to more part swapping too, because I'm still thinking of getting a Sandy Bridge Delosaurus at some point. Well, let's fire up Tuxedo and see if it'll work properly. Updates galore. How'd I guess? Almost supper time and still more updates. I had this thing off for a couple of weeks, and it is loaded with updates to download. Well, at least the update list is loaded. So, when can we actually start trying to transfer from one SSD to the other? At supper time, we can finally start transferring everything over to Tuxedo's new SSD. Man, sure spent too much time waiting for these things to download. Of course, I also watched a lot of YouTube content and other stuff in the process, so it wasn't a total waste. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking the StarTech case that's used with the Steam drive, and I'm just running it with the lid open so I can put the SSD in there and hook it up via USB 3. And I'm using Seagate Disk Wizard because I'm cheeseballing it, because there's at least one Seagate drive in there. Even though I'm transferring from Crucial SSD to Crucial SSD, I can actually use Disk Wizard, which is based on Acronis. And that's one reason to keep at least one Seagate drive in all of the systems, or at least a drive made by somebody who... That was a loud click. Oh, it was the hard drive. A drive made by something or another. A company that makes a Seagate, an adaptation of sorts. And basically... Oh, wait, I gotta push something here. There we go. Start Seagate Disk Wizard. Ugh, listen to that drive. Makes me want to seize it up on purpose. That's so loud. I'm not kidding, it's like a 90s computer. You can actually hear the hard drive from across the room. Yep, this is a 120 gig A data from when I was buying a bunch of A datas, because the Tech Syndicate folks back then said, A data is amazing. Let's see here. I want this bootable, so let's just do a straight copy. There's no data left to destroy. It used to be for games and stuff. Tuxedo SSD to the plug-in one. The thing is, will the little StarTech box lose power and kill the whole thing. That's happened before. I'm not really a big fan of doing this with one of the drives being USB, but we shall see. Blinky, 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 blinky. Come on, keep going, SSD. The problem with doing this with USB is that USB 3 drops the speed of that SSD down to the level of a lousy mechanical drive. But it'll still finish. Thank goodness for the lower capacity on that thing. Well, this thing's still doing fine despite the power supply blow up and things like that. And there's the kind of difference we're talking about here with A data, basically plastic, 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 and the crucial, even the BX has a little bit of metal in it. But anyways, this one's bigger. Let's put it in. The A data has been liberated, which frees it up for potentially going into the 2005 system, so all of my machines can have SSDs in them, and we can compare the performance across pretty much a decade's worth of technology. In the case of the Sandy Bridge Delosaurus becoming a thing, I also have plans for another monolith upgrade to free up an SSD for Sandy Bridge Delosaurus. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. For now, I need to know if this thing boots, because I have a lot of problems with the image getting transferred over not being 100% bootable. UEFI kind of got in the way. And let's hear that horrible... I also plugged the keyboard and mouse back into the front. And let's hear that horrible hard drive from halfway across the room. Is it doing it? What do we have here? I see a blinky cursor. I am not seeing anything that looks bootable. There's nothing still in the drive, is there? Well, if it was going to be... Nope. If it was going to be insert boot disk and say enter, and if it was going to be insert boot disk and hit enter, then we would have seen it by now. All things considered, though, this was a stock Windows 10 system by many respects. There wasn't really much in terms of customization, and I barely even had any games on there, except on the big loud hard drive that you can hear from across the room. So a fresh install of Windows 10 is not completely out of the question, instead of hooking this thing back up and trying to transfer everything again. Or it could also be that the boot order is out of order, and it was trying to load off of the mechanical drive. I rest my case, Your Honor. Let's see if this setting sticks. And I don't know why the hard drive's even doing anything. Windows is on the SSD, the virtual memory is on the SSD. I don't know. And just like that, it is Sunday. It has been a very lazy and laid-back weekend, but before we take this over to the project area to set it up in the 2005 system, there is one more SSD experiment that I want to do. These are the kinds of numbers that I've been seeing on SSDs for years, at least serial ATA SSDs. I think the circuit board ones can go even faster. But before we take that SSD over to the other system, let's run it from the USB 3 box and see how much these numbers drop. Remember these numbers, folks. This is what an SSD does when hooked up natively. And there's what it got to before the whole thing died. The whole thing lost power and uninstalled. Yeah, the USB 3 ports choke on drives. They can handle thumbsticks pretty well, but not anything much bigger than that. I have too much stuff plugged in, so things start browning out usually. But yeah, okay, so I was a little mistaken earlier. I'm thinking USB 3 thumbsticks that get down to the level of a mechanical drive in terms of their throughput. But this is still close to full speed, if the box doesn't lose power. Done. This thing is bootable if I want to finish hooking it up, and I have the cables to do so, but I just don't feel like messing with this anymore because this is hands down the worst mechanical setup that I've ever had in any computer that I've ever tinkered with. One single extra long screw, because the slide rails for this case, I don't know where they are. This is precisely the reason why case accessories or case-specific accessories now go in a little bag and get stuffed somewhere in the case itself. If I ever find where the sliders for these things went, then also, when I used to get cases like this way back in the day, I would hook up what I needed and throw the rest out. Another stupid mistake. So yeah, basically, you live, you learn, you save the spare freaking parts. But for now, this thing's jammed in there pretty well with a screw that's going in extra long at an angle, and it's probably going to break from the mechanical stress at some point if it doesn't put a dent in the metal. Couldn't even get one to go in for this one, because once this one was in, it was all over. This'll still flex, but it won't move horizontally. Pathetic. Definitely failing Mechanical 101, but that's what I get for throwing out spare parts. Right then, we'll pick up the story with these computers later. The fuzzy bottom computers thing with the felt pads on the bottom is making these things a breeze to slide around the place, though. Maybe I should do that with the others as well, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. For now, I think that's enough playing with SSDs for a bit. This is MultimediaJay, signing off. Thanks for stopping by.